You will never be successful in life if you are fat. Can you believe a therapist said that?
Wow.
You have no business doing therapy.
What if you're Santa Claus?
Santa Claus could be a great therapist.
No. Santa Claus is fat.
And successful.
And successful.
All right. Suck on that. Mended light. We polled our Mended Light community for terrible advice they received from therapists, and I can't even believe one of my own would say something like this.
It's such a betrayal.
It's such a betrayal. You have betrayed the creed, sir or madam. They said that you will never be successful or happy if you are fat. Why would someone say that?
Well, I think your entire worth is tied up in your body mass index. So
Body mass index? Well, then I have a lot of worth.
So much worth.
And you have very little.
Wow. But Santa is up there.
Look, body shaming goes in all directions. I'm trying to think of the context of why would someone say something like that?
I mean, we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are, right?
Yeah.
And so whatever your personal values are for health or weight or whatever that might be, it still doesn't give a person the right to project that onto someone else.
No.
I mean, it's unilaterally not true.
It's not. And yet we have a society that is... I don't like the phrase fat phobic because I that's what people say. But even that includes labeling someone as fat. Like we come in different shapes and sizes, and while we can, hey, look at that, we're so in sync. While we can strive for being healthier and eating healthier and getting more exercise, at the end of the day, we're all going to look different.
Right. Well, and we all experience different health challenges that come out of our life experiences, and you can't...
Life experiences and genetics.
Yeah. You can't judge that.
No. I know people who are very healthy, they take good care of themselves, and they will just never be like super cut and defined,
Right.
I know people who don't take great care of themselves and their bodies respond differently. And the idea that you will never be happy or successful is saying society won't let you. It's saying that society favors people who have this sort of appearance or this sort of look. And while there is some truth to that on a societal level, that's something we need to work through, all of us as a community. As individuals, there's absolutely no truth to the idea that someone can't be happy
or successful
with a certain body type. So where does that come from? You talk about we see the world as we are, not as the world is. So who is the therapist who would say something like that? What do they value, or who are they that they would say something like that to another human being?
Well, there are obviously, I would say, someone with a lot of their own insecurities, right?
Yeah.
That has a worth tie to the perspective of appearances and weight and so on and so forth. And then they're projecting that value, that worth associated with that appearance or that thing onto this person.
Yeah. So might have a counselor who is so obsessed with fitness and appearance, and that is their frame of reference on the world, that they can't believe that someone who doesn't share that perspective or pursue that to the degree that they do could ever be happy. There's a similar thing. There's a person in our lives who struggles with me because they see the world one way. They see the world as only very serious, very sober, very mature, adultish people can be successful. And I am perpetually Peter Pan.
Such a great Peter Pan.
Well, but the idea that someone like me could achieve any sort of success completely crashes into their entire...
Success and respect.
Success, yeah.
In their field.
Because if I were how I am, and I were struggling with either monetary success or being respected by people, I think this person wouldn't have a problem with me. They'd say, well, yeah,
right.
You're childish and immature, and look how that's paying out for you.
It would be empathetic condescension.
Yes, absolutely. But in my case, no, I talk about TV shows and movies and all this other stuff, and I always wear my superhero t-shirts when I'm not, in uniform.
Right.
And I'm somebody who loves the things now as a 40-year-old man, 41. Oh, how did that happen? that I loved as a child.
Yeah.
And to them, that is a challenge to their entire worldview. And I can see perhaps a counselor with a similar thing of, I have dedicated myself to this level of fitness so that I could be happy and successful.
Right.
And if you're telling me that I could be happy and successful without it, then what does that say about me?
Right. They would have to shift their whole paradigm and to some extent what they've attached their worth to.
Yes.
And so instead of shifting, they're saying, no, it's easier if I just lean into my perspective.
Yeah. Or you could have somebody who isn't especially fit, who doesn't get a lot of exercise, who loves comfort foods, and they're the therapist, and they are unhappy with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel like doors have been closed to them because of that. And now they're handing that off to their client and saying, my experience has to be your experience, or maybe not even my experience, maybe just my perception of things.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you're telling me that you can look the way you do and I can look the way I do, and you're happy and successful, and I'm not, then what does that say about me?
Well, in all these circumstances, you have a therapist, which is a place of authority, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have a client, and you have the therapist projecting onto the client their worldview, their perspective.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I didn't have such a long relationship with you and know the ins and outs of therapy in a way I've never known before, I wouldn't even know that that is an inappropriate thing to do.
Correct.
So tell me some more about that.
Well, a therapist's job is not to impose their values or worldview on the client. The therapist's job is to understand how the client sees the world
Mm-hmm.
and help them within that framework.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, sure, to challenge that framework and to help people grow beyond,
To consider other perspectives, other options.
Because all of our thinking tends to be limited to what we believe and what we
Right.
value. And so it's healthy to
or what we've experienced.
Yeah, and so it's
Yeah.
helpful to meet with somebody who has a different perspective, but it's never to say, here's what I think, that should be what you think.
Right.
Right? Here's how I see the world, that should be how you see the world. The other wrinkle of this that I see is if the therapist believes that on a societal level, someone with a certain appearance is going to be happy and successful and someone without that appearance is not going to be, what that therapist is saying is your happiness is dependent on society. Your happiness is dependent on whether the people around you judge you to be beautiful or handsome or to meet the standard or not. Your success will be measured by what the people around you think, say, or do. And I'm not going to discredit the notion that there is societal bias towards people who fit a certain standard, right? A certain ideal, which again is a subjective ideal, because you go back to the Renaissance and people who had more meat on them,
right? That was a wealth status,
yeah,
and so they were considered more attractive.
They were considered because they had more wealth, and then they were more healthy, so they could just eat. Whereas someone who was very thin, which today like we value people who are very thin, that was seen as unattractive, as somebody who didn't have a lot in life and who was starving. Right.
Yeah.
So it's all subjective. None of it's real. It's all just whatever we're throwing. And if you look at fashion from the past 60 years, right?
Yeah, let's not talk about that. That's ridiculous.
Fair enough. But what we value has shifted, right?
So it reminds me of one of Max Lucado's children's books. And I don't remember the title of the book.
You Are Special?
Maybe. Let me tell you.
Okay.
So it's about Punchinello.
Mm-hmm.
And Punchinello is a wooden doll, right? And he lives in this town with these other wooden dolls. And they go around every day, all day long, putting dots on each other, right? And so the dots are a status symbol, right?
Yeah.
And so the more dots you have, that means the more beautiful you are and the more accepted you are and the more worth that you have.
Yeah.
And Punchinello goes to meet with the doll maker, the human that makes all these wooden dolls. And Punchinello says, the dots won't stick on me. Like, they don't stay. And the doll maker, of all these dolls says, well, Punchinello, maybe that's not what life's about. Maybe life isn't about collecting dots, right? Maybe life isn't about collecting acceptance and worth and love from other people. Maybe life's about being the best version of you. and then sharing that with other people.
Wow.
And then Punchinello goes back and teaches his friends about this, and then all of a sudden there's more people, more dolls, more wooden dolls, and more wooden dolls where the dots just don't stick because they're choosing out of the cultural and the societal arbitrary acceptance.
Yeah.
And I think that's a powerful children's story about the acceptance that we find in other people and the love that we can show ourselves.
Right.
And
Because
then,
seeking acceptance from other people is always going to be subject to whatever their biases, whatever their values are, and it has no bearing whatsoever on who you are.
right.
So at the end of the day, you absolutely can be happy and successful no matter who you are, no matter what you look like. There may be obstacles imposed upon you by the prejudices and bigotry of other people based on your appearance or any other aspect of who you are.
Or gender,
Yeah,
or religion,
or sexuality or race. At the end of the day, happiness is a state of mind. Success, yes, some people have more advantages than others, absolutely, in many different respects. But you can succeed and you can be happy no matter what stupid therapists tell you.
If you enjoyed this video, and we know you did, check out our next video. Dating after divorce is so easy.
That's what they said. Who are they? Like, who has these ideas?
Have they ever been divorced? I'm questioning.
For those of you watching at home, what biases have you faced and how have you overcome them? We want to know. Until next time, keep shining because we need your light. And there's the video. They should watch it, huh?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Watch the video.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Watch the video, don't you know? You'd be so happy.